Says Michael Popak, legal AF, with some breaking news in the $1.6 billion lawsuit going to trial down in Delaware against Fox News, Fox Corporation, and all their on-air people that we love to hate. There's been a major development in the case, and I'm going to report on it now. There's been filings by Dominion Voting Systems, 192 pages worth of it, seeking a motion for summary judgment in which they've included internal emails among Rupert Murdoch and all of the major on-air personalities demonstrating, proving that they knew that Trump was lying and all the people around him like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell about the election being stolen, and yet allowed the platform of Fox News to be used as a megaphone to advance these lies. That, ladies and gentlemen, destroys any First Amendment protection that Fox News may have enjoyed for merely being a reporter of news, and puts them into the world of being liable, because if they promoted and allowed these crackpots to go on the air, especially to improve their ratings, which is what the evidence shows, which is what we always suspected, that is actual malice, a legal term that's used in First Amendment type defamation lawsuits, where a media outlet or a newspaper or some legitimate news organization, not named Fox News, says, well, we're merely the reporters. And therefore, under a line of cases at the U.S. Supreme Court called New York Times versus Sullivan, so it's often called the New York Times versus Sullivan defense, but you don't have that defense for merely being reporters. If you flip the script and flip the role and you become the advocate for these crazy, fraudulent, false theories, and that's what these emails now prove. Let me read to you from some of these emails from the 91-year-old owner, Rupert Murdoch, to the head, the chief of news at Fox, and then I'll read you some that are now public as of yesterday, between and among the top on-air people like Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham. Murdoch wrote to Scott very early on, his chief of the network, his chief of news, and said on November the 19th, 2020, that after watching Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell at a press conference say that there was massive cheating that made the results of the election invalid, Murdoch wrote to Scott and said, this is terrible stuff. It's damaging everyone. And yes, Sean and Pirro, meaning Janine Pirro, agree that what is being said by Giuliani and Powell is damaging everybody and basically implying that it's not true. But he actually gets even further to revealing the fact that the higher ups at Fox News never believed that any of these election lies that were being used to pump up the ratings were true, because Murdoch writes another email that he sends also to his chief news head. After watching Giuliani at a press conference, he says, watching Giuliani, ! Really crazy stuff and damaging. Meaning he's lying, it's really crazy. Yet at the very same time, in a split screen, that's the inside the mind of these people. This is what they really believe. But on the other side of the screen, to the network, they're pumping up the ratings with lies about election fraud because they're losing to CNN. And this all got revealed in emails between Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham. Yes, all of those big three, as they like to call themselves, talk to each other in text and emails. And they admitted that the number one reason that Fox News is running all of these election fraud stories and putting all these people like Sean Hannity, like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell on the air is to pump up the ratings, because they're getting, to paraphrase Tucker Carlson, they're getting creamed by CNN. Murdoch says they're getting creamed by CNN because everybody has moved on from the election now that Joe Biden has won, and they're moving away from Trump. So how do you keep eyeballs glued to Fox News and these Fox evening shows? You start talking about the big lie. You start talking about a fraudulent election. You start talking about Dominion voting systems having software that was designed to flip Trump votes into Biden votes, that was developed with the Venezuelans to create a corrupt voting system, which is all a lie. And that's what Dominion Voting Systems is suing over down in Delaware. Let me just read from another email right after the election from Rupert Murdoch to the head of news at Fox. Quote, very hard to credibly claim foul everywhere. If Trump becomes a sore loser, boy, was he right about that. We should watch Sean Hannity, especially, and don't let him do the same. In other words, don't let Sean Hannity become Trump's sore loser on the air. In an email between Tucker and Laura Ingraham on the 18th of November, just after the election, listen to this one, folks. You might want to sit down. Quote, Sidney Powell, is lying, by the way. I caught her. It's insane. To which Ingraham responded, Sidney is a complete nut. No one will work with her. Ditto Giuliani. That's what they're saying behind the scenes. But on the screen, they're allowing all of these fake, false, defamatory stories against Dominion voting systems and others to be amplified, magnified all the time for ratings. And how do we know it is for ratings? Because at the very same time, we saw the ratings drop, and then we have a text which basically concedes it, or an email between Hannity, Carlson, and Ingraham, in which Carlson says he saw a tweet by a Fox on-air reporter, Jackie Heinrich, and in which she fact-checked a tweet from Trump, in which she said that there is no evidence of voter fraud by Dominion. This is the case right now. Dominion Voting Systems versus Fox News. An on-air reporter tweets out on her feed that there's no evidence of voter fraud involving Dominion Voting Systems. To which Tucker Carlson, rather than saying, you're right, poor Dominion Voting Systems, we've got to protect this innocent business in America from all these fake lies that that are spiraling out of control and damaging them. You know what Tucker Carlson says in response? Please get her, meaning the reporter, fired. Please get her fired. He added, it needs to stop immediately, meaning her reporting, like tonight. Why? Tucker Carlson says in his email to the other big two on the network, it's measurably hurting the company. The stock price is down. There you have it. Not a joke. And then what happened? The reporter, Heinrich, deleted her tweet by the next morning, obviously getting pressure from the higher ups. That is the link that Dominion Voting Systems needed between the bad acts of the higher ups at Fox News, acting now with actual malice, knowing that what they're saying on the air is false, or with a reckless disregard for whether it's true or false. That destroys First Amendment protection. And now you have the motivation, right? You have motive. The motive is ratings. They're getting creamed by CNN. People have moved on from fake news at that moment, or moving on to Joe Biden being the president of the United States, and to pull those eyeballs back over to Fox News and pump up the ratings. They need to pin their tail to the donkey of fake election results and the phony things. And how do you do that? Night after night after night, you bring in the Giulianis, the Eastmans, the Powells. You let Donald Trump phone in and take his phone calls, and you attack Dominion Voting Systems and other made in America companies that all they're trying to do is bring secure elections to America. Something apparently the right-wing MAGA are totally against. So we're going to have to watch this closely. Fox News, of course, jumped on their soapbox and said, they're cherry-picking emails. I mean, I don't know how you can cherry-pick emails. We just read verbatim to you exactly the dialogue in the interaction between the owner of the company, the head of Fox News, the top three leading evening, I almost called them journalists, hosts of shows for Fox News, about what they really think as they allowed Dominion Voting Systems to get attacked mercilessly in America. I thought Fox News and the right wing was all about pro-business. Apparently not, because all they tried to do was beat this company to death with clubs on air. And there is repercussions for that in our court system. It's called a major $1.6 billion defamation case. The best Fox News has as a defense right now is, we may have done it, but it's not $1.6 billion. I mean, they didn't say it quite that way, but they're really focused on damages in their in their own damage control. They're focused on, well, they couldn't have suffered that. They weren't that big of a company, so they didn't suffer that big of a damage. Yeah, a Delaware Superior Court jury pulled from Delaware, Joe Biden's home state, by the way. It may think differently, not only about actual damages, but what we call punitive damages, which is exactly what it sounds like. Damages meant to punish. And since they have $5 billion on hand in cash, and they have some of their highest, they have one of their best quarters last quarter in terms of revenue, in order to punish a company like that, it can't just be a little tiny set of damages. It has to be something in the billions of dollars to make them hurt where it matters in their wallet. I mean, even one of the other emails that were quoted in the filing by Dominion Voting Systems yesterday is a pat on the back by Rupert Murdoch to the head of Fox News, who circulated an editorial by the New York Post, which is also owned by Rupert Murdoch. But the Post went out there and said, Donald Trump's a sore loser. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won, and we should all move on. Of course, Donald Trump hated that. Murdoch liked the fact that the head of Fox News took the New York Post editorial, circulated it among everybody who matters at Fox News, and Murdoch patted her on the back, in his own email. This reveals what Dominion Voting Systems needs to prove in order to win its case. Actual malice. You say one thing on the air, but you believe a completely different thing. And they're not just reporters. They act like they're the evening news, like MSN, like NBC or CBS. This just in, there was a press conference involving Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, in which they called the results of the election based on massive cheating. That's reporting. You're not taking an opinion. If that reporter then took the next step and said, and I agree, I think there was massive cheating, and therefore, Joe Biden should step down immediately and Donald Trump should assume, power. That's the difference. But you don't see reporters who are journalists reporting the news that way. They stop short of opinion. Sure, there's an editorial viewpoint. Every station channel has it. CNN has an editorial viewpoint. New York Times has one. Washington Post has one, fill in the blank has one, but that's different. That's an editorial viewpoint about what stories they're going to cover and what facts they're going to, they're going to expose, if you will. That's different than an opinion-based show for ratings, infotainment, newsotainment, which is what these on-air personalities at Fox are doing, and then bring on their guests, people who are straight out of the mental hospital, who they pitch as giving them a platform as having credibility, and they give them and imbue them with credibility on the air as they then take out a club and bash whatever is in their way that doesn't fit their paradigm, their worldview. So let's go after Dominion Voting Systems, this company no one ever heard of before. Or worse, let's go after Smartmatic, another voting company that has two suits, one against Fox News in New York for $2.7 billion. It's also going to trial, and another suit in Delaware against some on-air personalities, including Rudy Giuliani. Smartmatic, you think Dominion Voting Systems was sort of anonymous before? Poor Smartmatic, a little company down in Florida, had one client for the election, Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County, where Donald Trump would never win in a million years because of how Democratic stronghold that sets of precincts are in LA County. Yet they went after Smartmatic and said the same thing about them, phony software from China and all this other stuff, destroying that poor company before it could even grow into anything. And so they're suing for $2.7 billion. So all that cash that Fox has on hand for the $5 billion, they better put it in reserve as a public company to pay for any potential judgments that they may be getting against them. Because I got news for them. A New York jury made up primarily of Democrats and liberals, a Delaware jury made up primarily of Democrats, and with a large African-American population, is going to whack Fox News. They better try to settle with Dominion and Smartmatic, and settle soon. I don't think they need to be the news story every day in a negative way coming out of Delaware or New York, because these documents are now filed on the public record. And this isn't even all the documents. Many of the documents that were attached to the filings were black, redacted. And the judge is going to have to make a decision based on some motions that were filed by other media outlets to have these be publicly disclosed, if he's going to rip the black tape off these documents and allow us to see even more. I'm just reporting on the ones that were allowed to be publicly disclosed. And you see how damaging and devastating they are to Fox News and its ability to defend itself. So let's recap. Fox News, world of hurt down in Delaware in a trial that's going to trial very soon, this spring. The emails that have now been revealed in the filings by Dominion Voting Systems show, I think, conclusively that they acted with actual malice, which is the requirement to prove defamation and damages against a media company, because everything that they were saying on air was a lie. Their internal thoughts and dreams showed they were just trying to pump up ratings, and they knew everything that was being said by these guests were false. We do hot takes like this on Legal AF almost every day. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at MS Popak, and every Wednesday and Saturday I co-anchor the leading news and politics, legal news and politics podcast called Legal AF. You can find it on the Meidas Media Network. This is Michael Popak reporting.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.